Victory goes to Peter Falk. While Peter Falk was filming his well-known role, he was dealing with his own issues, yet Columbo always captured the bad people. He smoked 3 packs a day and drank a lot. Everyone in Hollywood knew about his romances. After 16 years, his first wife finally gave up and filed for divorce. The worst part is that when he had Alzheimer's, he lost contact with his kids. In 2008, he had to obtain a court order to allow his own daughter to spend 30 minutes with him. We're about to show you something far more exciting, though. Be careful. Peter Falk was born in the Bronx in 1927. He was descended from a Jewish family with Eastern European ancestry from Bohemia, Hungary, and Russia. His father had a store, while his mother operated a business. Things truly went south when the Great Depression struck. The Falks had to leave the city in search of something less expensive, much like many others. When Peter was just 3 years old, what did his preschool instructor observe about him? He cocked his head in an odd way to look around. The awful diagnosis of ocular cancer resulted from that minor fact. His right eye was removed in 2 days thanks to the physician's rapid treatment. He spent the remainder of his life wearing a glass eye. It gave him a distinctive appearance that would make him renowned. However, that was only the start. Many children would have given up. No, Peter didn't. As a child, he was self-assured, humorous, and motivated. His family relocated to Ossining, a tiny hamlet near New York City, when he was 6 years old. The village gained notoriety due to Sing Sing prison. In order to sell clothing to the prisoners, Peter frequently accompanied his father to the prison. He approached criminals. He even participated in basketball games with prison teams. One inmate, known as Piggy Sands, was particularly noticeable. They were fierce, fast, and skillful. It all came back to Peter later, when he portrayed cops or robbers in TV shows and motion pictures. At Ossining High School, Peter was easily recognized. He led the class for 3 years and served as vice president for 1. He was popular, intelligent, and humorous. Despite wearing a prosthetic eye, he participated in athletics. He had to have tenacity to play hoops and baseball. When he was called out at third base one day, he believed he was safe. In front of everyone, he removed his glass eye and handed it to the referee. Everyone in the room burst out laughing when he assured her, "This one will be easier for you." I learned a lot about him from that moment. Instead of fleeing from issues, he made fun of them. After high school, Peter intended to fight in World War II, but every branch of the military rejected him due to his eye condition. Then he discovered a way around the regulation. The merchant marine was less concerned with vision. He began working in the kitchen in 1945. He spent 18 months at sea. The joke was that the captain was the only person on a ship who needed to see him. Even the captain of the Titanic struggled with that. His path was anything but straight after that. After just 1 month, he dropped out of Hamilton College. It wasn't enjoyable enough, and there were no girls. When they were battling for their liberation in 1948, he bravely left and nearly joined the Israeli army. He only wanted to entertain people. Politics wasn't his driving force. In Manhattan, he found a covert organization assisting Americans in enlisting in the army. He received a ship, but the conflict ended 8 days later. In an instant, the plan was gone. Falk crossed nations because he was so intrigued. After the war, he left the merchant marine and traveled throughout Europe for 6 months. He worked on Yugoslavia's railroads as a communist. It was odd and different from anything he knew, and that was what made it worthwhile. He had no desire to become renowned just yet. Experience was what he sought. At last, he returned to college and made another attempt. He attended the New School in New York, the University of Wisconsin, and Hamilton again. In 1951, He received his degree in both politics and literature from Greenwich Village. The best way to describe him is that he was a combination of realist and dreamer. When he was done, he went to Paris with a female. That essentially describes Peter Falk. He was impetuous, eager, and constantly seeking something. He then took a more conventional route, attending Syracuse University and graduating in 1953 with a master's degree in public administration. He later stated that he wasn't very interested in working for the government, even though he had planned to do so. Because he was a union cook in the past, he even attempted to join the CIA, but was rejected. Falk was not involved, but it was linked to communism. Even so, it was sufficient to close the door. As a result, he was hired in Connecticut as a budget specialist. It infuriated him. He didn't even know the location of the workplace on his first day. However, he began working as a mathematician during the day and acting at night. He enjoyed performing on stage and joined a local theater group. Something clicked, even though he had never done it before and wasn't certain he was good. He started taking acting lessons from Ava Le Gallin, who is renowned for being an excellent teacher. To get into her class, he pretended to be a talented actor. One day, she informed him that he was running late. What he said was accurate. His skills were lacking. She said to him, "Well, you should be." At that point, he gave that single line a fresh lease on life. Peter Falk left his federal position and relocated to Greenwich Village with little more than a letter of recommendation. After that, he decided to pursue acting. His right eye was removed due to cancer when he was 3 years old. But the fact that it would keep him off the screen didn't matter to him. He had already been cast in plays by the Mark Twain Massacres, a local theater organization. In well-known series, he had appeared in The Crucible and The Caine Mutiny Court-Martial. After those little steps, he had the courage to go all in. Greenwich Village was the epicenter of the artistic movement in the 1950s. It was crowded with artists, filthy and noisy. Falk wanted to be there. While still employed in Hartford, Falk began training as an actor. He managed to convince legend Ava Le Gallin to let him attend a special class in Westport. She taught them, and no one else. Falk wasn't one. He drove 70 miles a week to school after lying to get accepted. He was seldom on time. One day, Le Gallin inquired as to why. He claimed to work in Hartford. She questioned how he managed to make a living acting there. Everything changed once he told her that he didn't make a career as an actor. She looked at him and said, "Well, you should be." She advised him to speak with a contact at William Morris just before he left. Sanford Meisner, one of the top acting instructors in the U.S., also taught Falk how to act. His strategies focused on being truthful and responding emotionally. These abilities would influence Falk's performances for years to come. In January 1956, Falk performed on stage for the first time in New York. It was in Don Juan at the 4th Street Theater. It wasn't the best start because the concert was only on for one night. However, he appeared in Circle in the Square in The Iceman Cometh by May. The drama featured well-known actors, including Jason Robards. People witnessed it. In November, Falk debuted on Broadway in Diary of a Scoundrel. It demonstrated that he belonged on that platform, despite the short 3-week period. By the end of 1956, he and Joan McKenna were in St. Joan. That one did fairly well until January 1957. Falk had been employed by the government the previous year. He now performs in major Broadway productions. Film, however, proved more difficult to overcome. When Falk first visited Columbia Pictures, the chairman of the studio said, "I can get an actor with 2 eyes for the same price." After hearing that, most individuals would give up, but Falk persisted. He had a brief role in Wind Across the Everglades, directed by Nicholas Ray, in 1958. Even if it wasn't a major part, he got to work on a movie set. He portrayed the role of beatnik killer in the 1959 American film The Bloody Brood. It enhanced his experience, but it wasn't really thrilling. At the same time, he was becoming well known on television. He appeared on major variety series such as Robert Montgomery Presents, Studio One, and Kraft Television Theater starting in 1957. He even tried out for the role in the film Marjorie Morningstar, but was not cast. Hollywood has not yet made up its mind about him. Following that, Murder Incorporated was released in 1960. Falk portrayed Abe Reles, a mob henchman, in real life. The film was shot in 9 days and didn't cost much. Falk based his character on shady characters he used to see at a pool hall and purchased his attire from thrift stores. It was so thrilling. According to someone in the New York Times, Falk appeared innocent until he produced an ice pick. His performance's abrupt tone shift and icy demeanor were what caused people to pause and observe. Falk was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor despite the film's modest budget and lack of promotion. He faced off against big-budget film stars from films like Spartacus and The Apartment. Being nominated was significant, even if he didn't win. At last, the film business was taking notice. That same year, Falk was nominated as well. In 1961, he became the first actor to receive nominations for both the Oscar and the Emmy. He repeated it in 1961. Peter Falk experienced a remarkable incident. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Pocketful of Miracles, his second consecutive Oscar. Only a year earlier, he had received his first nomination for Murder Incorporated. That alone should have made you proud. He was also nominated for an Emmy that year, which is ridiculous. For 2 consecutive years, he did that. It was the first time an actor had done that. At the center of it all was a struggling production. The only positive aspect of the film, according to director Frank Capra, was Falk, but the process of creating it was awful. Capra even claimed that Falk helped him forget his desire to murder Glenn Ford and his weariness. He reshot a sequence to watch it again because he believed Falk was so excellent in it. That same film marked the beginning of and Margaret's career. To put it another way, when Falk first appeared on television, she was creating history. But it wasn't just accolades that set Falk apart. It was the amount of effort he put into each component. He worked like a mad person, according to the people in charge. Falk accelerated after receiving 2 Oscar nominations and winning one for the Dick Powell Theater in 1962. He didn't just act. He became his characters. Before playing a police officer, he spent 3 weeks working as one. He was placed under nightly monitoring. For a character that only appeared on screen for 14 minutes in The Great Race, he wanted a whole childhood narrative. When he was hurt at work in 1964, he refused to take medications and lost 18 pounds in 2 weeks. He claimed that they would perform better if they experienced actual agony. When he wasn't on camera, his attention followed him. He portrayed a character for so long in 1967 that Julie Harris, his co-star, requested to have lunch someplace else. She couldn't take it anymore. Despite her character development, Falk continued to perform as an actress in films and television series. In the late 1950s, he made his television debut on programs such as Robert Montgomery Presents and Kraft Television Theater, which ran from 1961 to 1967. He co-starred with Walter Matthau at the opening of Target, The Corruptors in 1961, and was nominated for an Emmy for The Law and Mr. Jones. He appeared in The Twilight Zone as a crazed dictator. On Alfred Hitchcock Presents, he portrayed a phony preacher and a spooky mobster. Some, but not all, of his actions were sinister. He portrayed a man in Wagon Train who had to choose between driving a wagon and saving his brother. Additionally, he continued to land roles in popular films such as It's a Mad, 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 Mad World and The Great Race. In 1962, he became the first person to win both an Emmy and an Oscar in the same year. However, behind the scenes, things weren't always simple. It was beginning to be said that Falk was a genuine pain. He quarreled about lines, camera settings, doors, and everything else, according to directors. Because the door wouldn't open properly, he had them perform 37 takes of a straightforward entrance in a single film. Additionally, he and director Edward Dietrich got into a heated argument about Anzio that they were only able to communicate through their assistants. By 1966, several directors had added Falk provisions to their contracts in anticipation of the mayhem Falk would bring about. One filmmaker once remarked, "You endure hell because what appears on screen is heaven." However, not everybody was in agreement. He no longer collaborates with some management. In 1968, things changed. On February 20th, Falk donned a discolored jacket and assumed the rank of Lieutenant Columbo. At first, he wasn't even anticipated to earn the role. It was intended to have Bing Crosby, but Crosby declined. He was eager to get back to playing golf. Before Falk, two other players had played Columbo. In 1962, it was performed on stage, and in 1960, it was broadcast on television. However, the authors were unsure on what to do when Falk was offered by director Richard Irving. They believed him to be too young. Falk, however, informed them that he would do everything to be that police officer. He played Columbo for 35 years because he enjoyed it so much. Falk was the inspiration for the character's appearance. That raincoat, is it old? He owned it. He wore it so extensively that it had to be replaced after 25 years because it had fallen apart. Columbo appeared to be someone you would pass by unnoticed thanks to Falk. He was believed to be homeless in one scenario. It operated flawlessly. He was always viewed with suspicion. The trick was that they saw a clumsy, sloppy guy, but beneath the cheap smokes and terrible haircut was a really clever mind. "Just one more thing" became a catchphrase, and he didn't even give his dog a name. It was simply called Dog. The writers swiftly added, when they reworked the sequence, "It wasn't planned." Columbo was instructed to ask one more question because they didn't want to type the entire page again. It remained still. Falk turned it into a gun. Then someone added, "One more thing." It became so famous that Falk adopted it as the basis for his memoirs. They believed they were safe. However, Columbo's fame extended beyond that line. The show revolutionized the industry with its unique approach. The murder occurred immediately at the beginning of Columbo, which set it apart from other crime shows. What kept us guessing was seeing Columbo figure it out. Who did it didn't matter. It was about how he was going to catch them. It allowed people to concentrate on the clever little things, such as a shoelace, a car's air conditioner, or leftover caviar. This approach was called a "I'll catch them." It appeared less like a chase and more like a game of chess. It was thrilling to watch it happen even though you knew what would happen. Peter Falk's role as a detective was not his only one. He rose to fame. His role as Columbo made him one of the most well-known actors in television history. In 1990, he won it once more. In 1972, 1975, 1976, and 1977, he took home the trophy 4 times. In 1973, he was again awarded a Golden Globe. The most peculiar aspect of it all? He won both the Oscar and the Emmy, making him the only actor to receive both nominations in the same year. In 1961 and 1962, respectively. By 1976, He was earning $250,000 each Columbo show. That's almost $1 million each show nowadays. It was the highest salary on TV at the time. Why? As NBC was afraid of losing him. In the 1930s, Columbo's Nielsen ratings were strong. The amount of money that advertisers were willing to spend was high. Everyone wanted to be on the program Columbo. Even after many years, the love remained. Falk was ranked as the 21st greatest TV personality of all time by TV Guide back in 1996. 2 years later, they ranked Columbo as the 7th greatest TV personality ever. In 1971, the still young Steven Spielberg directed an episode titled Murder by the Book. It reached number 16 on their list of the 100 greatest episodes ever. Columbo was renowned for its fantastic villains. Big names, not just any actors. Playing a killer on the program was an honor. Only 5 stars have performed in multiple murders. Patrick McGoohan did it 4 times, and Robert Culp did it 3 times. Then came William Shatner, George Hamilton, and Jack Cassidy. Nelson, Oscar, Colonel Rumford, and Eric were the 4 murderers who McGoohan portrayed. Culp portrayed a murderer in one episode who used subliminal images to mislead others into killing him. In the 1973 film Double Exposure, it was the case. The show frequently portrayed wealthy, well-known stars as murderers and pitted them against the filthy, trench coat-wearing Columbo. It was always the poor man against the powerful elite, intelligence against rank. Columbo was more than a crime show with its setup. It transformed it into a class statement. It was not quiet behind the scenes. Falk got into a battle with NBC. Columbo's appearance during the first 20 minutes of each episode was not what the show's creators wanted. That plan did not sit well with NBC. They also objected to the notion of Columbo's unseen wife. Falk and the artistic team announced their resignation. The situation didn't get any better. In 1973, Falk recruited someone to watch out for him because he was so scared of losing control of the show. Scripts had to be written in secret. Somehow, Falk would still receive early picks. Falk would deliver irate statements that sounded like they were from gangster films when the directors attempted to push him too far. They carried out their duties. The executives retreated. He even halted work by claiming to be ill when they refused to let him direct. They eventually gave up. In 1971, he oversaw Blueprint for Murder. But all that power came at a price. By 1978, NBC had had enough. Falk demanded more money, therefore budgets were growing. The performance was canceled. Even when Falk wasn't with Columbo, he broke the law. In 1967, the two first met at the Paramount cafeteria. John Kveitz was a director on his own. Kveitz came up with a tale about 3 pals who lose their minds after losing a friend. In 1970, that evolved into Husbands, but funding was exhausted. Falk and the other players sacrificed over $1 million to make it happen. The free method that Kveitz employed was unfamiliar to Falk. When Falk starred in the 1974 film A Woman Under the Influence, he once remarked, "I have no idea what he's talking about, but they figured it out." He portrayed a working-class man struggling to cope with his wife's mental illness. That film received 2 Oscars. Even feminist author Betty Friedan had positive things to say about Husbands in a 1971 article for the New York Times. It demonstrated that men were also trapped, she said, lost, lonely, and seeking a genuine relationship. Falk had a significant year in 1979 as well. Stores started carrying the in-laws. Despite spending $9 million to produce, it only brought in $38. $2 million. Alan Arkin played a worried dentist, and he played Vince Ricardo, an odd CIA spy who caused problems for his future in-law. The moment where Arkin avoids fictitious gunfire and Falk cries, Serpentine, is still discussed. Together, they were adored by the critics. Some claimed that they were superior to the producers. The film gained so much popularity that it was shown to new agents at their training camp by the CIA. Compared to the 2003 version, it was not as good. The first one remained the same. Then, in The Princess Bride, 1987, he performed one of his more vulnerable roles. Falk portrayed the grandfather who recounted a fairy tale to his ailing grandchild. The film's production costs came to $30.9 million, which at the time wasn't much, but it gained popularity. It had the shrewd, amiable tone of Falk's voice. "As you wish," was something he said with just the perfect amount of charm and affection. His performances were the heart of the film. Falk's voice even had a gruff charm, according to Roger Ebert, which was just crazy enough to provide interest without being overly sweet. Later on, the film was selected to be preserved in the U.S. National Film Registry. Falk had written and directed everything from comedies to dramas by this time. According to several insiders, he secretly directed other series in addition to more Columbo episodes. He was known to perform dozens of takes for a single sentence before he got it just right. And as the years passed, his salary continued to increase. Columbo was earning $600,000 each program when he returned in 1989. He even considered filming Columbo's last case, his final film. The detective's retirement party was supposed to mark the start of the show, but Falk's health was deteriorating and the network wasn't interested. The part of him that was constantly curious and never happy, however, remained unchanged. The part of Peter Falk that never quit, never stopped working, never let go of the story was Columbo, who would tilt his head, squint, and say, "Just one more thing." He had a part that made him famous, Lieutenant Columbo, as well as fame, wealth, and accolades. Peter Falk appeared to have it all. However, that endearing, untidy investigator had experienced a great deal of suffering, treachery, and conflict. After pursuing her for 12 years, he eventually wed Alice Mayo in 1960. After falling in love and being married, they adopted 2 girls, Jackie and Catherine. Falk was nominated for an Oscar that same year. From the outside, everything appeared to be excellent. However, fissures were starting to appear. Falk was portrayed on television as a good-hearted and trustworthy investigator, but his real life was much different. On practically every film set he visited, he was notorious for pursuing women. In private, crew members would wager on whom he would next approach. While still married to Alice, he started dating Shara Denise, who is 22 years younger than him. It was also done by another individual. Falk was known to manage multiple ladies, occasionally in various cities. Hollywood professionals weren't surprised. His infidelity was discovered by all. But his troubles didn't stop there. Falk drank vodka at lunch, smoked 3 packs a day, and was constantly fighting on set. Every hour, he would pause his filming to light a cigarette. Directors had a terrible time working with him. He slowed down and increased the expense of each production, argued over camera settings, and demanded rewrites. Although the studios appreciated his abilities, they didn't enjoy how crazed he was throughout his performances. By 1976, some were even scared to hire him. At home, things were worse. For 16 years, she put a lot of effort into maintaining the marriage. She didn't discuss his business and instead looked after their daughters. However, she was finished by the end of 1975. The fact that Falk was publicly meeting Shara Denise was too much for Alice to handle. She requested a divorce in 1976. Nothing major, just a silent farewell. For the sake of their daughters, she never publicly disparaged him despite receiving the house and the money. She was courteous. At the same time, Falk received $250,000 for each Columbo episode. However, he spent less time with his girls as his fame increased. From 1971 to 1976, he was gone for weeks at a time. Even though he was wealthy over $5 million by 1975, Catherine sued him after he stopped funding her education at Syracuse. In court, he battled her. They broke up. His marriage to Shara in December 1977, barely a year after his divorce, made matters worse. She was Miss Pennsylvania World when she won in 1970. She was eager, ambitious, and attractive. They were married for 33 years, longer than anyone had anticipated. But throughout that period, there were arguments, splits, and tension. As he grew older, Falk's situation darkened. Just one more thing, Falk's autobiography was published in 2006. It was messy, honest, and amusing, just like him. He didn't follow a timetable. He lost one eye due to cancer when he was a child, and he put a lot of effort into being an actor for 12 years. Additionally, he was acquaintances with well-known individuals such as John Keats. It was Falk himself. But everything changed rapidly. Dental surgery appeared to cause a rapid decline in 2007. In 2008, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. There was a court case after that. Catherine, his daughter, requested to take responsibility of the home in 2009. She said that Sheila was preventing her from seeing her father. Catherine merely wanted money, according to Shara. In court, both parties placed responsibility on one another. According to Catherine, her father once sent her hundreds of postcards. She claimed that Shara was slamming the door at her. Using Falk's diary, which claimed he hadn't spoken to Catherine in years, Falk's attorneys retaliated. The judge made an effort to be fair. Shara was in charge, but Catherine was only allowed to visit for 30 minutes every other month. By then, Falk's thinking was so jumbled that he didn't even recognize her. My heart was broken. Even his own daughter was forgotten by the actor who portrayed a detective with a lot of heart. The final blow came next. He passed away on June 23, 2011, at the age of 83. Alzheimer's and pneumonia ended a life that had been so full of promise. However, Catherine did not receive a call. No farewell words for friends or relatives. She found out about it from the news, just like everyone else. The world was depressed. He was informed he was excellent by Steven Spielberg. According to Robin Williams, he is among the greatest comedians of all time. But there was a silence that was more painful than words could express. Once more, it was just him and his girls.